Good evening. My name is Ray Dwyer, and I am your host tonight on Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditation and discussion group. Tonight we're discussing Chapter 7, The Gap. The Gap talks about the difference between what you really are and what you present yourself to be. We all do it. It's part of the human survival thing that we do. But sometimes we get lost on what we really are. Last week, I talked about what you are is more important than who you say you are. You have to know what you are. Last week, we talked about the heart-mind connection and how it heals the body and when you get centered and things like this. And that's all really, really good and important. Tonight, we start discussing what I call why is it so hard? And we're going to find out why is it so hard is because we have had a lifetime of conditioning and programming to protect ourselves by presenting ourselves instead of being. I start the chapter on page 147. Dr. Joe is talking about a time after he started giving lectures after the movie he made, What the Bleep Do We Know? Fascinating movie. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you look it up. It's just fascinating. It was probably the single thing that triggered me to come across Dr. Joe is that I saw that and that was one of the strangest videos I've ever seen. It was really odd. And so anything that odd's worth investigating, right? And so I come across, finally found him and started reading his book, and I haven't quit studying Dr. Joe since. And that was in 2018. I found that he had the answers that I'd been looking for a long time. I was at a point in my life, I'm reading Dr. Joe's words on 147. I was at a point in my life where I was traveling from city to city everywhere, every weekend, doing lectures. Sometimes I was in 2 cities in 3 days. It occurred to me that I was so busy that I had no time to actually practice what I was teaching. I'm pretty conscious of that. I am just, sometimes I think I set an impression that I live a pretty elevated life. And I keep telling you guys, I'm just a guy. And if you met me on a bad day, you go, who are you? So, um, me on one page. I'm at the beginning of chapter 7 on page 147. So I don't boast of living this 100%, but I live it on that 80+%. I really do. And I don't have anybody else to talk to. Some of you might say, I've got no one to talk to. I've been doing this for years, and I've got very few people I can talk to. No one in the community of Dallas where I live I can talk to. There's a group here in Dallas. They meet, we get together once a month, but in the circle of my life, no, I don't have anybody to talk to. That's partly why I make this a discussion group. Not too many people take me up on it. I have a WhatsApp page and my meetup page. You know, they don't take me up on discussion, but that's why I do that. This was an unnerving moment because I began to see that all of my happiness was created from the outside of me, and that the joy I experienced when I was traveling and lecturing has nothing to do with real joy. It appeared to me that I needed everyone, everything, and every place outside of me in order to feel good. This image that I was projecting to the world was dependent on external factors. When I was healthy and young, I was very advanced skill at what I did. And I had high level security clearances. I did stuff that was top secret and, all kind of crazy stuff. And I was proud of who I was. I was this guy, and I worked behind secure doors. I thought that was super cool. That was who I was. What I did was who I was. But on the day I recognized the core reason for my unhappiness, he's got everything in the world is flowing for him, and he's getting unhappy. Okay. On the day I recognized the core reason for my unhappiness, I also realized that I needed the external world to remember who I was. My identity had become the people I talked to, the cities I visited, the things I did while I was traveling, and the experiences I needed in order to reaffirm myself as this person called Joe. Yeah, that's what I did. I was the guy that worked in this special floor with locked doors and security guards at the door, and I walked in. In fact, I saw that all of my perceived happiness was really just a reaction to stimuli in the external world that made me feel certain ways. Yes. Can some of you identify to Dr. Joe's place here? Then I understood that I was totally addicted to my environment, the third energy center. No, the environment, the second energy center, graded me and told me the value I was. That's a pretty risky place to find yourself. What moment for me, I had heard a million times that happiness comes from within, but it never hit me like this before. If my happiness came from my environment, then what did people mean when they said my happiness comes from within? Because he's sitting there having the life and the time of his life, and he's starting to be self-aware enough to realize all of this is outside of my life. Can some of you relate to Dr. Joe during this time of his life? I could. That's why I mentioned it, because I was Mr. Super Tech. I did some cool things. And I mean, I was an engineer and I wasn't paid like an engineer. But for a tech with 2 years education in electronics, I was doing some pretty super things. And I had the security clearances and the armed guards about me to make sure, not that I did it right, but make sure that no one even saw what I did. Yeah. And, but that was my environment that I was so proud of. And when that started falling apart, my environment started falling apart. I started falling apart. Technology is a very nasty keeper because it will make you feel high one day and a month later change. And what you thought you mastered will be irrelevant in a few months later. Yeah. Top hands represent, put your hands like this. The top hands will represent how you appear on the outside. The bottom represents how you appear on the inside, how we appear and who we really are. I didn't tell you that right. Let's read that again. Top hand represents how I appeared on the outside, and the bottom was how I knew myself to be in the inside, in my self-reflection. It dawned on me that a human being lived in duality, two separate entities, how we appear and who we are. I appeared as top tech. I walked in, had my big badge. Security guards looked at me, acknowledged they recognized me, and let me through the door. But when the game changed, I was nobody again. I had to reschool like a new tech until I got good again at the next technology. How we really are represented by that bottom hand is how we feel, especially when we're not distracted by the external environment. I was so ruled by that external environment back then, and I had no understanding of what else to do. Can some of you relate to that? This is where your place is in this life, and you don't have a clue how to escape it. That's where I was not too long ago. The former is how we want others to see us. The latter is how state of being is our state of being when we are not interacting with other people. If we sit long enough without doing anything, we begin to feel something. That something is who we really are. When you just sit in meditation and you just do something simple, like maybe the binaural beats, no guide, just a little self-hypnotic sound, pretty soon you will find yourself. And it's an odd place to find when you're not used to being there. I'm over on page 151. Layer by layer, we wear various emotions which form our identity. Isn't that a cool expression? We wear emotions and we say, I am to that emotion. My identity back then was I am angry and I am tough. I am the hammer that gets things done. That was my identity. I didn't know any other way around it. When I didn't wear those identities, I just sat. Things didn't get done, not in my life and not in the world around me. That is part of what Dr. Joe teaches me how to get past. In order to remind us of how we want to project to the outside world, you got to know who you are. It is who we think we are in relation to everything around us, but that is different from who we really are, how we feel without the stimulus of our entire outer reality, feeling of shame and anger about the failed marriage, about the fear of death, uncertainty about this and that, a sense of inadequacy. All that stuff was eat me up. And so I made this tough guy face to get through things. We create a set of memorized automatic programs that work to cover the vulnerable parts of us. Essentially, we lie about who we are because we know that social mores do not have room for that person. That is the nobody. That is the person whom we doubt others will like and accept. That little part defined who I was. And that is why I played the tough guy. That is why I worked harder, studied harder, and demanded my way through things. Because I was the most insecure one here. And I know that people would judge me by what I do because I wouldn't allow them to judge me by who I was because nobody liked who I was. I didn't like who I was. Some of you in this self-deprecating mode, at least sometimes, where you just think nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat a worm, as the expression goes. I lived that for years. Over on page 152. As we mentally review the experience repeatedly, the body began to relive the event over and over again just by thought alone. We kept the refractory period of emotion running for so long that we journeyed from a mere emotional reaction to a mood, to a temperament, and ultimately to a personality trait. That defined me. I remember the first year where I read this book again and again, and I'd read these statements and I'd go, man, he's writing my life. I bet you he's writing your life, at least a few of you. That something in your younger years set a program in motion and you rehearsed it until it became your personality reality. That's what we do. That's the human experience. Why did we start this chapter here? Because we need to get honest about what drives us. If we start this with this church face, is what I call we're all happy, we're all healthy, we're all doing good, let's go play. Then where does the change begin? Why do I share my early years? So that you can see who I am today. So you can have an inner permission to see yourself today. I know it's hard to give yourself permission to do this. I think it's a pretty crazy human trait that we have to argue with ourselves to get permission to do something. But it's a human trait. I still have times when my survival mind says, no, we're not doing that today. It's just like, what do you mean? This is me. You're telling me that I can't do what I choose to do? Yeah, you can't do that today. Like, get out of my way. I'm going to sit down and do this twice as hard now. And since all of those unique experiences produce a myriad of emotions, we notice that those emotions seem to take away any feelings that we are hiding, and it works for a while. Yeah, we can put face on, and we can hide it, and it works for a while. But all you've done is put that old stuff in a box. You haven't healed it, eliminated it, understood it, any of those things. So at some time, that will create an empty root in your new tree branch, and you'll still have to deal with it. That's not because there's anything evil about you. That is a human experience. Zoom, I see your hand up. That's a good place for a question.
Yes. Hi, Ray. Um,
Hi.
I just wanted to ask you, like, because you talk about it a lot, that how angry you were and how competitive and how everything was a very, yeah, how you had a tough guy face, right? So, I hope it's not a very personal question. So, eventually, layer by layer, the target goal is that we rediscover who we actually are. So what
Yes.
have you discovered about yourself? Like at this point, how many of your identity you have discovered that, okay, this is who I actually was, or I actually am, or right now I am returning to the person who actually I was born as, right? So I just wanted to know, like, what have you discovered about who you actually are?
This is a little early that for this question, but I love this question because I get to
Is
say
that
it
okay?
openly. I get to say this. Oh man, I I got up I was on the floor one time after a meditation and I was being electrified and I am cooking. I had the angels dancing over me. I had the divine blessing me and washing me and I got up the floor and go, wow, I know what I am and who I am. I am not that person. That person was the life this body had, but I am an energy being. Here we go. I am an electrical energy being. I am a luminous electrical energy being. I am a divine, luminous, eternal electrical energy, son of the Father, heir to the infinite potential. I am. That is not an affirmation I speak out into the void. That is a declaration and a command I speak to this body so that it knows that daddy's home and things are going to be different. Thank you for asking the question.
You mean like you feel that you are part of the divine? So whatever qualities a divine has, you are that, right? You are kind of like what
I am
I'm interpreting.
the detailed answer of that is I am a point of expression of the divine. The divine. Remember Einstein. This is the simplest way to think of it. Einstein said E equals mc squared, energy equals mass accelerated. You play a little algebra on that. That says mass equals energy slowed down. The difference between energy and mass is the rate of frequency. There is nothing but energy. You cannot name, point, or select anything except energy, and the difference is frequency. You, I promise, you are a point of energy, a point of expression of the divine. You really, really are. And my purpose here is to help you take that answer seriously and test it and learn it so that you can say, what I am is an I am. You know, Moses even said, I am that I am. And he changed the world. Guess what? You can learn I am and change your own little world of your personal life. I did, and I'm nobody special. I just learned it because I wanted it. How bad do you want it? Thank you for that question, but that's the answer. I
I
am
have a
not
little
this body.
I have a little follow-up. So
Okay.
once you experience that feeling that I am the eternal, I am the divine. Uh, so that was, you said that was back in 2019. So it's been like
No,
almost like
that's where I start. 2019 was where I started studying Joe. I did not get this, really get it, until summer of 2024.
2024. So it's been like almost 3 years now. So is it an experience that will that my body will remember? Like, well, from your what you are saying that you
If
follow
you
Dr.
get it
Joe's
right,
the
let me
medit
tell you what
yeah,
happened to me when I got it. What happened to me when I got it, I was, I had lymphocytic leukemia. And how bad did I have it? The military VA gave me 100% medical disability because I had a few years to live. And that was diagnosed in 2020. And I had it in 2020, which means I had it for a while. And from 2020, I did everything I could in meditation for the level that I understood at that time, and nothing touched it. And the leukemia got tested, and the numbers got worse for 20, 21, 22, 23, and in summer 24. And in summer 24, I was fully phase one, and they were testing me because my blood was starting to get thick, which is what leukemia does. And then in the midst of one of my screaming, I want this, where is it? I get pretty passionate sometimes. The gates of heaven opened up on me, and I had a moment, and I learned I am. So what are you doing, Ray? You don't know who you are. Who am I? It's correct. Am you are. And it just after a little word game with my teacher, all of a sudden I saw it. I felt it. I knew it. I am. What did I get out of that in summer 2024? By the January of 25, 6 months later, when I had my next blood test, the leukemia was all but gone to such an extent that the VA took me from 100% medical disability to zero. They considered me healed from chronic lymphocytic leukemia in 6 months. It doesn't happen. I did it. I have the records. I've got zero check anymore. I don't get a big check anymore. The VA even says, you don't have it. You don't need money. You're healthy. Go have a good life. That's what it did for me. Does it affect the body? Oh my God, it affected mine. When you change your energy, your body changes to the very expression of your DNA. I assure you it does. That's why I stress, have you discovered what you are. People all the time declare who they are. I'm the son of the Father. I'm this, I'm that. It doesn't mean much until you know you are not this. If you say you're the son of the Father and you still think you're a being of survival, you haven't gotten the lesson yet. What you are is an energy being, a point of expression of divine light. That is what you are. I assure you, with all that I know, I assure you. You just don't know it yet. I don't mean know it here. I mean know it in your heart and your beingness. You don't go to bed at night saying, I am. I do. And every now and then I get this goosey grin before I go to sleep. And it's just like it's hard to go to sleep now because I'm just like, oh, look what I have learned. Why is it so hard? Why the gap? The gap, as this chapter calls it, is because we don't know what we are. I'm not accusing anybody. That's our society. Nobody is teaching us. Dr. Joe is. But when you know what you are, your world will change. Sunita,
Hi.
hi.
So here's my question or comment to that. Um, Knowing who you are or what you are is an experiential thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
This,
If you
this
get
is
it
all
right, it's very
intellectual.
experiential.
This is all intellectual, and we can talk about it forever, but until we experience it personally, it doesn't become real, right?
Yes, I'd have to agree with that too.
So
So, how do you make it real? That's where you're going, right?
yeah.
When you go into your meditation, I don't care whether it's better blessing of the energy center 1, 9, or some of these other so-called advanced meditations. You go into that place where Dr. Joe says, nobody, no place, no time. And we're going to talk about that later in this chapter. That's going to be an issue later in this chapter. And you start saying, what is left is I am. I am nobody. I am no place. I am no time. I am. What is left? What is left is an energy being of divine origin and light and love that has a potential that goes beyond our wildest dream. You practice it. Sometimes you'll get a lightning strike, like I did. Sometimes people walk in through the door to get it, but you practice it. You search for it in the darkness of that void. I assure you, everything from science to the woo woo arts say, you are not this. This is the expression of what you are. When you get a control of what you are, then this will change. It's just how it works. But it takes practice, like everything else. Why does it take practice? Because we have been told all our lives that we are this expression, even today in science. That's why they give us a pill, because they think our body is a machine. You do one thing to a machine, the machine changes. You do something else to a machine, the machine changes. Doctors have nothing to do with what we're studying here. Doctors gave me up to die a few times, and I'm still here. Doctors don't know this. Go ahead, Sunita.
Okay, I know maybe this is kind of a foolish question, but
Never.
I really don't understand what it means when you say you have to search for it or you have to practice it.
When you go into your meditation, oh, that's a fair question. That's not foolish. Thank you for the question. It's real. Thank you for the real question. When you go into that meditation and you bring that energy up, and he says, you be nobody, be no place, be no times. He is telling you to release your awareness of your three lower energy centers. Release that awareness. What is left? You are nobody, no place, no time. That is what's left. When you get there, there's two words that I like: wander and wonder. Wander is W-A. Look around, see what is there to be discovered. You may have talents in this that are unique to you. There's clairvoyance, there's clairaudience, there's clair this and clair that. These are visionary energy senses. Different people have different things. I am very graphical. I mean, I get pictures just thinking. I know somebody who gets music. I've met somebody who gets waves of colors. Different people get different things, and they teach them different information. I have a friend who just downloads information, hard information, boom. And what he does with it is absolutely stunning. So I have no doubt he does it, because he will get up from one of these downloads one evening and have a notebook that's a couple inches thick and go, Ray, I got to show you what I did last weekend. And it leaves me with my mouth hanging open. So you wander. Okay, and whatever you discover is part for you. And wonder, you don't demand, you don't ask, you wonder. What would it be like? Get open, you be a receiver. Later, when you're comfortable in that environment, you can be more direct. But we're children in it. Allow yourself to be children in that experience. What would it be like? Oh, look at this. I'm in this dark room. What's it like? What do I do here? What do I feel here? What do I sense here in this dark room? I had a dark room meditation once in a vision. And the whole purpose of the dark room meditation for me that time is to sense what my body was doing. And it was an important lesson. I felt the energies in my body. And with that, I was able to change my thinking, because I allowed myself to wonder, W-O-N-D-R, what is going on? I let my wondering be an open question. And without words, I was told to look at this, give your energy, pay attention to this, and I got an education of something going on in my body. As I got more familiar, more confident, then my information seeking and direction got more pointed. But when you begin. Don't go in there thinking you're a professional when you're brand new. If this is new to you, let it be new to you. Wander, W-O-N-D-R, wonder what is going on here. Why am I in this darkness? Why is it dark to begin with? That was an interesting question I crossed. Let yourself receive, but you got to be empty to receive. If you're holding on to your past, how can you receive? Sunita?
So yeah, I'm sorry if I'm kind of dominating the.
You're asking good questions. Go ahead.
So my understanding, and maybe it's incorrect, was when he says no person, no one, no time, it's to kind of just let go of what you're thinking and just sit there and be. Is it more that we are supposed to do than that? Is that
If you do fully what you just said, that is enough. Because we hold on to ourselves, the people in our lives. We hold them all the time. We hold on to ourselves, our environment. Is it safe? I carried the question, is it safe for me, for over 40 years? And most of the time I felt unsafe. And time, my time was a nightmare that I don't want to talk about. So for me to learn to let go of those three things was radical to me, not idle conversation. I don't let go of my environment because it's not safe out there. I know it's not because I used to be out there and I wasn't safe because there's other people crazy like I was. So when he says that, he's encouraging you to let go. You hear me talk about open hands. Let go of your three energy centers. Let go of your survival clinch because of anger. Let go of your fear of your environment. You sit down, you look around, my little world around my little neighborhood is at peace. I am safe for this hour. I know there's wars going on in the world and that there's terrible people out there, but in my little bubble, I'm safe. My environment's safe. I let go of it. My past is in a stream flowing down to the ocean of life. I let go of it. My hands are empty and I am this moment. In the book, Becoming Supernatural, the second chapter is titled The Present Moment. Singularly, the most important chapter in that book, and few people talk about it. Learning how to be present is that letting go of your people, your environment, and time. And it is everything. It's not something, it's everything. It's the doorway. Until you get that, you don't go through the door. Seriously, good questions. I must have touched something on that reading. And we've just begun this chapter. Over, over on page 153. But when we never overcome our limitations and continue carrying the baggage from our past, it will always catch up with us. And this usually happens sitting around our mid 30s, carrying a great deal of one person to another. It doesn't go away unless you release it. I studied numerous different esoteric schools, Kabbalah, all kind of stuff. They all had some really cool stuff to learn. None of them taught me this. So I never got free in my heart. You want to get free in your heart? You've come to the right place. Wake up every morning and you feel like the same person. Your environment, which you relied on so heavily to remove your pain and guilt and suffering, is no longer taking away those things. How could it? You already know that when the emotions derived from the external world wear off, you will return to being the same leopard who hasn't changed his spots. That's what happened to me. I would study these things. I went through silver mind control, master level, did everything. I could do all kind of cool stuff, and I would go home at night and be the same disturbed individual, and I didn't understand why. I was a pretty good amateur hypnotist when I was going to college, and I helped people quit smoking, lose weight, and get better grades. And I'd go home at night and be the same intensely disturbed individual. On and on and on, example after example. I didn't know how to do this. That's what I'm here to help you realize that that is separate. That is a different issue than this. When we keep that diversion up, guess what eventually happens? We grow more dependent on something up outside of us to change us internally. Yes, I created all kind of illusions of face, all these different tough guy I ams to cover up the pain that was in me. Eventually, we come to see that our futile attempts to maintain an ideal for others is really a strategy to make sure that those impending feelings we've been running from never catch us. Yeah. But they always, always do. What we're going to learn as we go through this book is how to change that. It's not a pill you take, and I mean that figuratively. It's not a one-time meditation. Someone lays hands on you, blesses you, sprinkles your heart, and go home and sin no more. No, this is human. This is real. This is work, and it takes practice. When this happens, the individual begins to wake up. After some self-reflection, she discovers who she really is, what she has been hiding, and what no longer is working for her. So she lets go of the facade, the games, and the illusions. She is honest about who she really is at all the cost. She is not afraid to lose it all. This person stops expending energy she had been putting into keeping on illusionary contact. I know people in public, they put on this face and you'd think they have a idealistic life. And I know that married couple is hell at home. And they can't seem to fix it. They don't know how to fix it. So they bring her to the doctor who gives her Prozac or some other drug. In a short time, the person's former personality returns. Drugs cover, it don't heal. That new self emerged as unpredictable, even radical. Who wants to be around that person? Who wants to be around that old truth? No one wanted to be around me. I've got a master's degree from University of Texas, and I found it hard to keep a job because nobody wanted to be around me. Yeah, I'm a pretty educated guy. University of Texas finance is about is the hardest business degree you get. And I got it, and I did good at it. And nobody liked me enough to give me a job. I worked for H&R Block for a while, just doing taxes for people. And I got a trophy around here somewhere from them. Yeah, I got a trophy for solving somebody's problem, saving them thousands of dollars. This is the paragraph I wanted to read to you. This is the paragraph I marked in this chapter, page 159. This is what big part of this work is about. So here we go. What really matters in the end? We got a lot of life, a lot of learning, a lot of illusions to this life. What really matters? If you need the environment in order to remember who you are as a somebody, what happens when you die and the environment rolls up and disappears? Do you know what goes with it when that happens? The somebody, the identity, the image, the personality that has identified with all of the known predictable elements in life, who has addicted to the environment. You could have been the most successful, popular, and beautiful person, and you could have had all the wealth you ever needed. But when your life ends and your external reality is taken away, everything outside of you can no longer define you. It all goes. What you're left with is who you really are, not how you appeared to be. When your life is over, you cannot rely on your external world to define you. You will be left with that feeling you never addressed. You will not have evolved as a soul in that lifetime. We are here to learn something and to grow, and to change. We are just grass in a field, trees in a forest. This is an expression of that life, of infinite expressions. What are you is answered in that. In the negative, what you are is not your life, your environment, or this time. What is left is an energy being of divine origin and nature. This is an expression of your energy being. And when you get this right, you'll be able to test that statement and feel your energy being change. You have to do it. This is your expression, your discovery. What are you? It's what's left when your body, life, environment, and time is removed. That is what you are, that is left. I discovered that this funny old man is a beautiful electrical energy being of divine source and eternal life. And my face, I had tears to the point my ears were wet. Just could not grasp what I was shown. And as I exercised it and exercised it and exercised and reviewed it, I was told that leukemia disappeared in my body. I didn't tell it to leave. I just said, I am. And in that I am, there is no place for leukemia. You work on that. You figure out what is left when your time is up on this expression. And it will be for all of us, because this is just an expression. Go to bed at night and say, I am an electrical energy being. And let it teach you what it means. Wander about it, wonder about it. Let it teach you. Speak it to your teachers who are always, always there. You think you don't have a teacher? It's because you are not allowing yourself to hear it, because they're always, always there. Always have been, always will be. When you get quiet enough, they'll speak to you. No. When you get quiet enough, you will hear them speaking to you. That's the most important part of this chapter right there. Get it. That defines the gap. Then you stop growing emotionally 50 years ago if you don't. If the soul's purpose is to learn from this experience and gain wisdom, but you stayed stuck in that particular emotion, you never turned your experience into lesson, you didn't transcend emotions or exchange it for energy, while that feeling still anchors your mind and your body to those events, you are never free to move into the future. You've heard me say it many times. The goal is empty hands. Get free. And that is why. What does surrender mean? That's the definition of surrender. When you get that, you know what surrender means. Empty hands. AB, we just finished page 59. I'm turning the page. 162. The reason why people need more drugs or more shopping or more affairs, or in my case, more alcohol back then, is because they need something to medicate their lost self. If receptor sites are continually stimulated, they get desensitized and shut off. Depression is an odd thing to me. I think I've said it before. When something hurts, we take it away. If you put your hand on a hot stove, you take it away. If someone's yelling at you and making your life miserable, you go away. But if you're depressed, what's the human thing to do when you're depressed? You do things that make you more depressed. It's always a simple thing for me to see now. I watch somebody's behavior and I can go, okay, he's depressed. I got to be careful around him because everything you do around him will be wrong. Most people do these things because they just don't know how to change from the inside. That is correct. That's why you picked up this book, Breaking the Habit, because you don't know how to do it on your own. I didn't, and I studied all kinds of stuff. It has never been explained to them that using the outer world to change your inner world makes things worse. It only widens the gap. Let's get that straight. If you continue to find your solution in this outer survival world, you only make it worse. Religion does that. Religion is an outer expression for your solution. This is not an outer problem. This is an inner problem. We have to become happy before our abundance shows up. Now, that was a thing I used to read from Dr. Joe, and I go, now, how am I supposed to be happy? I've got multiple cancers, and I've been told I'm dying. Get happy and you'll get healed. I'm going, how am I supposed to do that? The point is, true happiness has nothing to do with the pleasure because it reliance on feelings good from such intensity stimulation things only moves us further from the real joy. You ever thought about that? What does a person dying of cancer watch his wife cry over him because she's going to miss him terribly, and he's supposed to find joy? How is he supposed to do that? First, you stop defining yourself from the life that created the cancer. Hard to do, but that's the goal. It is imperative to realize that behind every addiction, there is some memorized emotion that is driving the behavior. Man, that was hard for me to swallow. I was addicted not only to alcohol, I was addicted to anger. And for a guy who says I'm not addicted to anything, one of my pride banners, I had to admit I have an addictive behavior. What is not beyond the scope of this book is, in fact, its central purpose in helping people break the habit of being themselves, whether they view it or not. In thinking about the gap, possibly you said to yourself, well, of course I hide from other people. Of course I hide from other people. I was an angry, unhappy, insecure man, and I was dying of cancer. And Dr. Joe says, I had to find my way back by getting happy. Really? Anybody else relating to this craziness? You're finding yourself in such a fix. Okay, so you don't have a deadly disease. You might have a fix. There's a reason you picked up a book that says Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. But if we are to break free, it means we have to confront that true self and bring out into the light that shadow side of our personality. I don't want you confessing to your friends or your priest or your neighbors or to me. I want you to find you in you and say, it's time to change. Not just change behavior, that's part of it, but it's time to change your heart. However that means, you have to find your way. Your problem, instead, in the privacy of your own home and your own mind, you can work on extinguishing the negative speeches. Right there. There it is. In the privacy of your own mind. Your problems will never be resolved by anything by analyzing them while you're still caught up in them. You've got to find a moment of quiet and reflect on how you lost it today or the last couple of days and say, what can I be to change that? Not just do. What can I be? How do I be the person that doesn't walk around afraid of my environment and overreact? Instead, let's just unmemorize our self-limiting emotions. A memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. Now that I did not understand until I was totally on the other side of this. I'm thinking, I remember my past, a memory without emotion. I remember my past. And I go, every time I remember it, I grit my teeth. So I'm not really free of emotions yet. And I didn't understand how being free of emotions, not caring about it, could be called wisdom. It's hard to express. Let me give you a clue. Understanding the memory without it tying to you means my hands are empty. That's wisdom. Means the world can be the world and you're free in it. That's wisdom. Instead, let's just unmemorize our self-limiting emotions. And memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. Then we can look back objectively upon the events and see it and who we were being. That's the point. Without the filter of that emotion. If we take care of unmemorizing the emotional state, not unmemorizing what happened, unmemorizing the emotional state, that's what we're after, getting free of the emotion. Then we gain the freedom to live and think and act independent of the restraints and constraints of that feeling. What happened is written in the book of life. It happened. You can find my military records in high school history books about Vietnam. It happened. What's not written is my emotional ties. I can unmemorize that and see it as history and free myself of it emotionally. See the difference? Some of you have family trauma that are just traumatic as hell. Some of you may have lost your job and your house and just have it's like the world fell on your head and I didn't do anything. I was doing a good job. Lost my job, lost my family and lost my house and just like, what the hell? What did I do? Yeah, sometimes life is like that. It's not about the event. It's about how you have memorized the emotion of the event. That is what you need to unmemorize. And it's a trick in the head. It's a kick in the butt and a trick in the head and all those funny words. I recognize it takes commitment of the heart to look at those bad days and say, I release you. I change. I am not that today. That is the challenge of this lesson, to close that gap between the story and reality. Instead, we just unmemorize our self-limiting emotions. A memory without emotional charge is called wisdom. Empty hands is called wisdom and peace. Closing and even eliminating the gap between who you are and who we present to the world is likely the greatest challenge we all face in life. Whether we term this living authenticity, conquering ourselves, and having people get us or accept us for who we really are, this is something that most of us desire. Changing, closing the gap must begin from within. It's not a pill you can take. It's not a religious ritual you can do. It's not a social group that you can talk your woes out of. It is a commitment in you, to your heart, to say, I am not that. I am this new self, and I am becoming that future self. Why wait for trauma or loss to occur and have your ego get knocked off balance due to that negative emotional state? Clearly, when a calamity falls, you have to act. You can't take care of business as usual when you've been knocked out. I'm going to change. I have to. We can learn to change in a state of pain and suffering, or we can do so in a state of joy and inspiration. Choose. We don't have to wait until we are uncomfortable, that we feel forced to move out of resting state. Dr. Job, I said it so many times. He said people change for one of two reasons. They change for trauma or love of the future self. That's what that page says. Trauma kicks you off of your high tower and makes you change today. You lost your job. You lost a relationship. Somebody ran into you on a car and wrecked your car. You didn't do anything. You're just going down the road. Now your car's wrecked. Bam. You don't have a way to get to work, and you've got physical injuries. Who's going to take care of your kids and pay the bills? And all you were doing is going to work. The sky fell on you. What do you do? Picture yourself standing in a room with arms outstretched, pushing the opposite walls apart. Oh, he says, you just step out of your environment. You just say, okay, I'm not playing this game of fight anymore. I am not going to be this bully, tough guy anymore. I'm going to step out and just not play. When we break the chains of that bond, we liberate the body. It's no longer the mind living in the same past day after day. When we liberate the body emotionally, we close the gap. When we're doing this, our body is bound. I'm just angry. No, your whole beingness is angry. Your heart, your mind, your body, it's all angry. When you're angry like I was, you don't digest the food. I don't care if you bought the most expensive organic food. You're not digesting a big part of it. You can buy supplements, and most of them are just being eliminated. Your blood pressure is wrong. The immune system is depressed. You got tunnel vision and tunnel thinking. You got to step out of the game and realize this body is not you. Sunita, I see your hand up. Thank you.
So I had a kind of a question about this. So does it mean that just like a random example, supposing you are deeply betrayed by somebody who loves you, and you hold on to the anger of that betrayal, and what he's saying is just you can recognize that the betrayal has happened, but you just don't hold on to the anger or the frustration of the betrayal. You just let it go, so that if you saw that person again, you might not want to be friends with them, but you could say, it's fine, I don't have any emotions around what you did. It doesn't mean that I've forgotten what you did. Is that?
Yes. Don't forget what he did. You will never hear me tell you to go apologize to somebody. I will never tell you to. I don't care if you were the first cause. It's not about that. It's about what's happening in your heart. The goal of this is to get your heart free. You had a dramatic relationship event. It's written in the book of life. It happened. Denying it is a liar's game. It happened. Now, what do you do here? Let's talk about what if you don't do it? What if you don't do it here? If you have children involved, the children will deal with your bitterness for the rest of their life. Why? because you haven't learned to let go of a very ugly situation that happened in your life. It's not about them. It's about you and your heart. It's about you learning to love you, you learning to keep you free. That's what it's about. That is a sensitive question, and I know this, and you're not the only one that could ask me that question and say it with tears in their eyes. Yes, it did happen. Yes, it was wrong in more ways than I can imagine. But you need to get free for the sake of those around you that need you. You get free. You get the wisdom. You get the flowing joy through you. The other guy can take a hike off a short pier. I think I answered your question.
Yeah, so it really boils down to forgiveness, right? You forgive the other person and you just move on and say, God bless you, but I don't want to be friends with you, but God bless you, and
Yeah,
let's get on with our separate ways, kind of thing.
exactly. There are people out there that will hurt you. Absolutely. I was one of them. I didn't hurt people's hearts, but I hurt people physically. I was one of them. So you hedge yourself around, you protect yourself from. That's what these energy centers are for, so that when somebody like an abusive person gets in your life, your bells go off. When I say heal these, that doesn't mean turn them off. That means understand the message. You are supposed to get those messages. We just forgot that we're supposed to let go of them when the event's over. If the event's over, now heal. That's the lesson. And you can go through times of sorrow. That's human. It's a sad story you just said. But the end game is to release what was bound to you and release it so you walk away clean. And that will be your wisdom. And if you have children involved, they will respect and rejoice in having a happy mom. Did that help, Sunita?
Yes,
That's a
thank
serious.
you. Thank you.
That's
I
that's
had one other question though.
your questions have been spot on, so keep going.
Sorry, it's really clear that you know what you wanted to change, but sometimes I feel like I don't even know what I need to change because it's very easy to be blind to your own uh, shortcomings or faults. So how do you find those blind spots about what it is? I mean, I have some things which I think
Right.
I'm sure I could
I
change
know
them.
what I did, and I can tell you what Dr. Joe teaches, and they're similar. Let's start with Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe now has a course called the Abundance Course, and that Abundance Course has nothing to do with money. It has to do with abundance of life. I've taken it, and it was spot on, just like everything else he teaches. Um, Abundance talks about finding your purpose. Purpose is not something you achieve. Purpose is like the compass in your life. Do you have a direction in your life that makes you get up in the morning and says, "This is what I'm working on today"? But where does purpose come from? Purpose comes from desire. I want to do something. I have a desire, just have a hunger to create something. Well, what happens when you get so low that you go, I don't want anything except to be able to be alive next month? Yeah, I was that low. I was on a month by month basis for a while. What do you do with that? Where does desire start? When you're so dark, you have no desire. You're just floundering around waiting for the lights to go out. And they tell me I'm supposed to want something. Pfft, I got nothing to want. Let me tell you where the light comes from, if you've forgotten. There is a scripture, and I am very slow to quote scripture, but this scripture is the most pointed one that I know. It says, I give you the desire of your heart. It's the Father speaking. I give you the desire of the heart. It does not say I give you the want. It does not say I give you anything else. It says I give you desire. What is the desire? Desire is that heart's call that you cry in the morning and you start knowing what you want and the direction you want to achieve. And it's the seed of purpose. There's only one place to get that, and that is in that kingdom on the other side of surrender. This life won't give it to you, this physical life. You learn how to do that meditation. You learn how to go through that door that we talked about a few minutes ago, that surrender door, that nobody, no place, no time. And you wonder and you cry and you say, what is my purpose? What is my desire? What is it? What am I supposed to do in this life? I got nothing. Talk to them. They are listening. They're just not used to you listening. With all your truest heart in that place of nobody, no place, no time, and see what comes at you about you. This is my experience. I was doing that and I was getting a catalog. Now, when you show me this ain't what I want, this ain't what I want, this ain't what I want. I could, my heart didn't want any of this miscellaneous stuff that my mind was trying to get me to choose. And then there was one word that presented, and I went, what? Really, it happened this way. And my heart leaped at the thought of that word. And I stopped this catalog in my vision. And I said, what? And I heard my guide, my teacher laugh. It's a funny thing. I get this kind of thing. Like I said, I'm very graphic and when I get tuned in. And I heard him, you mean I can do that? Yes, Ray. You can do that. That? Yeah. And so I came out of that meditation and I put a letter on my little whiteboard over there. And I put my little squiggly lines around it. And I started meditating on what that word meant in real life. What would it be like? What would it look like? Dr. Joe will tell us more about it as we go through this. And I'll tell you about it. And that's where I began to get my desired and my purpose. And what you see right here today is a fulfilling drive for that purpose I was given in that item. And I'm maturing in that direction still. And I've been doing this freely for people. This is my 6th year. That is how deep my heart cried. When I said, I can do that. Yeah, right. You can do that. I'm doing it. That is where it begins. I would suggest in your meditation, ask and you will receive. Ask with your true heart and your true mind, not like a catalog or a menu on an item. Ask sincerely. Remember, always remember, these people know you better than you know you. We are covered in our illusions. They see us truly. Ask sincerely with your heart. Anything. That was my question during that time. What do I get? Dr. Joe says I'm supposed to love my future self. I don't know what I want. The abundance course, like I said, is not about finance. It's about abundance of life. I think it's worth it. It's a little pricey, but it's worth it if you've got the money. And that answers that question. $166. Side effects of closing the gap. Over time, you're going to use those powers of observation to help you unmemorize that negative emotional state. By doing so, you will surrender that emotion to a greater mind, closing the gap between who you are and who you have been presented to the world. How many times have you people wondered, how many times have you wondered, what does Joe mean when he says surrender? Surrender is defined by that chapter I stressed in that paragraph I stressed. Surrender is letting go of your survival mind. Not figuratively. You come out the other side and there's nobody, no place, no time, and you let go of your life survival. And you disconnect for a time, for a period. That is surrender. When we break the chains of this bond, we liberate the body. It is no longer the mind living in the same past day after day. That's the goal. We break this command that our subatomic nature, subconscious nature has over our choice. I used to just say, I can't make it stop. I don't know how to make this stop. I learned how, and I broke the bonds, just like it said, that ruled my life. And that's what you can do. That's why we're in this book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. We're here to help you learn first that you are being controlled by programs you did not choose. You didn't choose this. So give yourself a break and quit accusing yourself. Keep in mind that it's not enough to merely notice how you've been thinking, feeling, and behaving. Meditation requires you to be more active than that. You also have to tell the truth about yourself. You have to come clean and reveal what you've been hiding in the shadows. You have to drag those things into the bright light of today. Don't lie to yourself. Your guides and your teachers know you clearly. But when some things come before your eyes, it's not to make you rehearse it. It's to allow you to free yourself from it. This is no longer serving my best interest. This is no longer serving me. This has never been loving to myself. Then you can make the decision to be free. This is not loving to me. I set this free. I am going to be doing that now. If you try to let go of this with your mind empty on that, you're going to have a real hard time because your mind doesn't like not being busy. So you need to know that desire that you're stressing to get to. So that when you say, that's not loving to me, I let you go. Unconditionally. No, go away. That was a bad day. I'm doing this now. And do it again every time this presents itself. I'm not doing it with you anymore. I'm doing this. No, I'm not doing this. It's like a dog that barks until you've convinced it. You don't do that to get rewarded anymore. That is not because you're a bad person or anything. That is the human experience. That is what I did again and again. Later in the book, we'll talk about the word change. We're not there yet. Workshop helped Pamela realize. She went to a workshop. I went to a anger management class. In the third class, he told me not to come back. My anger is too dangerous for the class. I was kicked out of an anger management class. I think that was pretty funny. I went there to get help because I knew I was chronically angry. And they said, no, you're too dangerous. Get out of here. Thanks a lot, you know. Meditation will help you peel away some of the layers, remove some of the mask you've been wearing. Meditation is how you practice your new future self. That's your practice place. Okay? As you remove the veils that block the flow of this intelligence within you, you become more like your future self. As you're able, when these old selves get not, because it's your new self is not familiar. So your survival mind says, hey, that's not what we do. This is what we do. And you just right in your face sometimes. You go, that's not what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. As you remove that old script again and again, eventually that new program will be what's familiar in your mind and your body, and it will stay. Some people get it sooner than others, depending on how deep and painful their old programs are. Ask yourself, what energies from the past experience am I holding on to that reinforces my past identity and emotional attachments? I had some pretty ugly I ams that I defined myself. You stop those I ams and you start saying a different I am. You stop the old definitions and you start creating new definitions and you rehearse them in the quiet of your meditation. 5 minutes after you do Blessing of the Energy Centers and the music stops and there's a quiet, think of your future self in that quiet time, that 5 minutes that you add to it, and rehearse what it's like to be here. Not a new office, not a new car, not a new house, but to be that new self. What would you be like if you were that? As you move the veils that block the flow of this intelligence within you, you become more like it. As you remove that veil and you practice it, you will slowly become familiar with it, and your subconscious mind will accept it, and you will slowly become like it. This is real. This is human stuff. You don't have to be some guru sitting on a pillow with a funny hat on going, oh, this is what you practice in your mind and your heart until your consciousness accepts it. Most people try to create it in a state of lack, worthiness, preparation, or some other limited emotion, rather than from a state of gratitude. First is to get out of the clinching. First is to go through that surrender. That is the doorway. As long as you're doing this, you cannot do that. First, you learn surrender. After that, things get wild. The doors open. The angels that guard that door step aside, and you are invited in. Then wonderful things start happening because you're not holding on to the world. You're not holding on to your past life. All this starts with recognizing that the gap exists and meditating on the negative emotional states that have produced that gap and dominated your personality. Unless you are prepared to look closely at yourself and assess your properties with tender honesty, you will forever be mired in the past. Unless you do the work to let go and go through that surrender, you've got a hard road to hoe. Understand it, release it, create with the energy available to you by taking the mind out of the body and releasing it into the field. Take your mind out of your survival mind into that no body, no place, no time, and go into the kingdom with empty hands. You have surrendered the fight. Now tune to your future self. Be your future self. Practice that. If the humans have a superpower, let me back up a statement. If all there is energy and frequency, and yet I am, what can I do? You tune. Tune. That is your superpower. What does that mean? It means, as tonight's conversation, when you tune to your future self and allow it in you to become an expression of you, you change yourself to be as that tune, what you tune to. Remember, let's say you're a tuning fork. The tuning fork vibrates, not by its own will. It vibrates when it tunes to an energy field, a frequency in the energy field. And that frequency resonates with the tuning fork, which is just sitting here. And then it starts vibrating the frequency of this potential. And that frequency of that potential is now expressed in the body. Your superpower is the human's talent to tune. But it can't tune to what's in the field if it's all messed up frequencies because of the past and all the other stuff. You got to clean all that stuff off your tuning fork. Out here is a frequency of your supernatural potential. And you're all tangled up with 100 different thoughts and frequencies. And so this is still here. This doesn't change. And so you let go of all that other stuff and your tuning fork gets clean. It doesn't generate the frequency. It tunes to it. And it starts vibrating to it. And because this tune is the same as this tune, they attract each other. And this changes according to what it's tuned to. That's the superpower of the human being expression. As I sat alone, I think I'm getting close to the end of the chapter. As I sat alone this morning, I felt my heart beating, and I started thinking about who was beating my heart. I realized in one instant that I had distanced myself from this innate intelligence. I closed my eyes and put all of my attention on it. I started to admit who I'd been, what I've been hiding, and how unhappy I was. I began to surrender. Think about that word surrender. Boy, that was a painful word for me because I didn't understand what it means. I began to surrender some aspects of myself to that greater mind, then remembered myself of who I no longer wanted to be. I decided how I no longer wanted to live based on that same person. Next, I observed my unconscious behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that reinforced my old self and reviewed them until they became familiar to me. Let's go back to my tuning fork. He's the tuning fork, and he's recognizing that he's got all kind of messy signals coming out of his tuning fork, and he wants to get rid of them. So he admits them, addresses them, and sets them aside, and his tuning forks become clean. Now, as he addresses that greater intelligence, that greater frequency, he tunes to it. He feels for it. He finds that frequency. You're not fixed. You got this magical tuner in here in your consciousness, and you tune to it. And then you receive that energy. You are a supernatural tuner. That's how you ever seen a psychic who can find things? I knew somebody, you could walk into her house, you said, an hour ago we buried a watch. Just in this strange house, can you find it? He says, whose watch is it? He goes over and holds a person's hand. He tunes to the person. He finds that person's frequency, and he says, oh yeah, the watch is over there. I've seen it. It's bizarre as hell. How does he do it? Because he has learned to master his tuner. He simply tunes into it. Whatever has drawn you to this book, when you make up your mind to change, You have to move to a new consciousness. You must become very clear about what you're doing, how you're thinking, how you're living, how you're feeling, how you're being, to the point that it isn't you. What I was doing back in my old life isn't me. It was a man that was struggling to survive. That's it. And he was doing a rather poor job of it. And you don't want to be it any longer. And that shift has to reach to the very gut level of your being, to your inner core. I don't want to make it stop. That's the end of that chapter. The point of this chapter is that we have who we really are and who we present ourselves. How do we close that gap and discover in there our real self? Who are we really? What are we really? What we are really is an energy being, because that's all there is. What does that mean in my limited understanding? It means because we are energy, we can release old energy, old programs. Since it's a program, we can choose to release it. We were given this stuff about us. We didn't choose most of this stuff. If it's a program, you can change it. If it's a frequency, you can change it. If it's a memory, you can change it. You don't change the event. Life happened. You change your attachment, your meaning, your understanding of it. Then your energy changes, and that's what you're after. You change your energy, and you will change your life. Different energy, different life. It goes both ways. You want to something happen to you and you want to bite the bullet of bitterness and get angry and go crazy, fine. You have changed the energy of life and your body will express it. If you want peace in your life, you get that energy in you and you find out what it's like to be peace, to be loving, to be a giving person. And that new energy will present itself in you, and you will change to the very DNA of your body. Your DNA per cell will start emitting different proteins, because a happy, loving, giving person emits different proteins in their cells than an angry, sad person. That's science. Let's do that. Let's practice caring. Let's practice forgiving our past. Let's practice having kindness to ourselves. Let's practice loving ourselves first, loving ourselves most, loving ourselves always like a fountain till we overflow and bless the people around us. Let's learn to love ourselves like that. Let's love ourselves so much that someone can get near us, and that's all it takes for them to like us, because they feel the grace of love just coming off us. Let's learn to do that. All it is a choice. I promise you, it's just a choice. Sometimes it's not an easy choice. Sometimes we're blinded by that into not choosing it. I understand that. But that doesn't change the truth that it's still a choice if you dare to let go of your grievances. I had grievances that were life and death. Man, it took being knocked off my high horse and given a death threat for me to let go of my grievances. I understand. Please, I dare you. I dare you to practice being a tuning fork. I dare you to find that tune that says peace and grace and release the tunes of bitterness. I dare you. Because I'm going to laugh at the smile on your face some days. Raymond, I'm so happy now. I can't stand it. This is goofy. I got some of the goofiest things happening in my life now. I got dogs coming up to me and licking me in the face instead of biting me. I've experienced that. I've had guard dogs I thought were coming to tear my head off, and they stop and get on my and lick me. And one of the dog ran up to me because he thought I was going to be chewed to death, and he's got his Great Dane. Oh, did I tell you about that? I went out to get mail sometime, and some guy was walking this Great Dane, and I heard, you've heard wolf. Great Danes have this really wolf, and all of a sudden he was running like a horse. And I think, oh shit, there's no way I can run to my door enough to get away from this. So I stood at I stepped into the middle of the sidewalk, opened my hands like this, closed my eyes, and started telling the dog I loved him. What do I can't, I'm not going to outrun him. And he's a Great Dane. He's 150 pounds. He's almost as heavy as I am. And he's at a flat run looking at me. It's like, oh my. So I had to take my eyes off him. So I closed my, and running like a pony at me. And then I heard his feet stop and skid. He went into a skid in front of me. And I opened my eyes, and his eyes were like this. And he jumped up, put his paws on my shoulders. I'm 6 foot. He puts his paws on my shoulders and his head on my shoulders and gives me a dog hug. So I gave him a hug. And we're standing on the sidewalk. I'm hugging this full-grown Doberman. No, not Doberman, Great Dane. And the guy's running up and he's looking at me like, what the hell? What did you do? I've never seen my dog do that ever. He doesn't do that to me. And the dog's tail is going like this. We're just having a love fest in the middle of the sidewalk. I just told the dog I loved him. He goes, wow, I've never seen him do that. And so I let the dog down. And he's trying to lead the dog away, and his dog's looking at me like, I'm telling you, when you get this right, weird things happen like that. There's a guy here in Dallas that I do a walking meditation with the Dallas group once in a while. And in White Rock Lake, it's on the east side in the morning. There's a sidewalk you walk up and down. So there's about anywhere between 10 and 20, depending on the day and the weather. Walk it. And so here's all these pointing zombies going, and his bicycles flying down the sidewalk like this stuff. Well, this one guy stopped a second because that's what the walking meditation does like this. And he's standing there like this, and he looks down, and there's a cluster of little birds at his feet looking at him like this. And he goes, oh, how you doing, guys? And then a couple of them land on his hands. He's like this, and he opens his eyes, and there's 2 birds on his hand looking at him. He goes, oh, hi, how you doing? And so as we walk by him, we kind of walk and we stop and look at this guy, and he goes, what? So he actually got someone to take a picture of him with a bird on his hand. It's like, I'm telling you, when you get this right, and this energy of peace is part of who you are. Oh, by the way, no bird has ever landed on my hands. I've had them look at me, but they've never landed on my head. So this guy's ahead of me in the peace factor. Things happen. It's worth it. Learn that surrender that this chapter talks about. Learn to close that gap and find your way through that surrender door. I don't say it's easy. For me, it was hard. For me, it took months. It was almost a year of reading this book for me to have my surrender. And that's wanting it. But when I got it, I ended cancer. At least that cancer. I still got some basil and stuff that comes out now and then because I still play in the sun. Lack of wisdom there, I guess. And So, I'm talking in circles now. Somebody talk to me so I don't have to talk about me.
Hi. I thank you so much again for doing this every week. I was thinking because my surrender, it's funny. I'm there. Now I'm realizing kind of there are people like I have friends that don't forgive others very easily at all, and then I have people we forgive like myself. I forgive people pretty easily, and then but not myself. So it's the same energy. I think I'm always like what I need to surrender is how I beat myself up for the choices in my past.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
can relate to
angry.
that. I
I'm
can
not
so
angry
relate
at
to that
others
statement. Oh
anymore.
my
Although I
goodness.
am a little angry at a couple people still, and I know I need to. So I'm learning. I need to keep reading, let it go, surrender. But yeah, my main chunk is really self-criticism and self-reflection. Is it the same of thing of letting go of thinking about self, sort of, I guess. Um,
Always be honest. If you messed up, like I say, some of these things that I had to deal with, that was you, Ray. I'm going, yeah, you did that one. I had to
yeah.
recognize, yeah, I had a bad day and I took it out on people. Yeah, that one's, yeah. And I had to deal with that and the consequences of it and lost another job.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
so, and that used to hurt me. I started this work just saying, talking about unworthy. I was the most, how can I how can I go before the divine and ask for healing? If I
You
go
actually
before,
blow my mind a lot because I know a lot of people like the old you. People that are angry all the time. And I always think like, do they ever self-reflect? Are they suffering with this anger? And in a
you
way you,
self-reflect with no solution. I knew that was
oh,
me, but I had no idea how to change it.
oh, yeah. So
Let
they're
go, let,
suffering too
let go
from,
of this. I'm supposed to let go of this. Those sons of bitches. I want justice.
right. And I'm still holding on the other side, like I I'm blaming me. Whether we're blaming them or
Same
me,
thing.
it's
Doesn't
the
matter.
same.
It's,
It's
as
just an
far as
energy.
your heart energy is concerned, you've got a hold of it.
Right. Right.
That's
No,
why
thank
I
you.
say I am not concerned about you forgiving them. I'm concerned about you forgiving you. When
Yeah.
you forgive you, that goes away.
That'll be great. It may take a while, but I'm going to work on it.
Once you understand, once you understand, all you were doing was trying to survive.
Yeah.
You may have been here when I talked about my first day of my PTSD class. The teacher walked in, there's 12 combat veterans. We're talking like the guys who got dirty.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there
Bless
and we're
hearts.
looking at her. She walks in and she starts, I want you to look at the guy across the table and congratulate him for his PTSD. We looked at each other and said, do we get up and leave now? She's out of her mind. It's nuts. This has tormented me for 40 years. And I'm supposed to say thank you for this?
Hmm.
She's whacked. So after everybody, about 5 minutes, she said, okay, calm down, calm down. Let me explain. That PTSD may be your normal survival. Why you're still here? That
Hmm.
PTSD drove you to do something hard, may have made you fight harder, run faster, shoot better, survive something uglier.
Yeah.
That was survival driving you so that you're here today.
Right.
Thank you and thank yourself for surviving.
What?
The paradigm changed.
Yes. Yes.
All
Beautiful.
this ugliness of self-accusation, I should have been congratulating myself. I survived in an absolutely insane world, and I've got all my fingers. I don't have all my teeth, but I got everything else.
Yeah. No, you're making me. So the things that I was doing, beating myself up, um, I should have never married my 22 years with this person. I shouldn't, stuff like that. I mean, like,
All
well,
of that was you trying to survive. in the limit of what you knew and the opportunities of that moment in the world you lived in, I I rest assured that was your best choice,
Oh, good.
right?
No, thank you. Someone put like something on the
Sure.
screen that was
But
distracting.
that is your
Nope.
best choice in that
Thank you,
moment.
because you're twisting my brain right now, because I would continue like
So
I've heard
forgive
that
yourself. So forgive yourself for having lack of wisdom. The worst thing I could have possibly accused you of is that you didn't have the wisdom of your circumstances. But then again, how the hell could you?
I really did do the best I could.
There it
But I
is.
still
And I'm
can't
and me
forgive
as your
myself.
me. Let's say I'm a licensed certificate counselor. I got thing, and I'm supposed to criticize you for doing the best you can with the wisdom that you have and that with the limited choices that you had. That was the best thing you could do, and I'm supposed to criticize that? No, you did the best you could do with what you had, with the wisdom you had for your survival. I'm supposed to criticize someone who did what's best for their survival? No,
Right,
I know what that's about.
right,
Congratulations, you made it here today.
right. However path we come.
However path you come, now you're learning to let go
Yeah. Oh,
so that this heals.
yeah.
You could study The Secret. You could study Silver Mind Control. You could study hypnosis, and they'll give you cool mental tricks, but it doesn't heal this. At the end of the day, this is here. This book is about healing this. When this changes, your body heals, your mind gets at peace, and your life changes. I assure you. It's
I know
just,
that. I know that too, because I have had healings, and but this last, yeah, you're helping me so much. And I was beating myself up because, again, like I set standards for myself, like I should be studying this every week and I should be doing this. And just this week, Spirit said to me, hey, you're studying it, it may take a couple years or whatever, there's no time limit. Like I can always find something to kind of set these standards for myself that are just kind of like, lighten up, girl, lighten up, you know. It's like, but thanks for all these lessons, because it's amazing, really.
if all you do is study this, I'll be disappointed. I
Oh,
want you to tell
no,
me
no, no.
how I want you to tell me how you practice it.
No, I meditate like in the morning,
Okay.
whatever comes on my YouTube, actually, I just say, God, send
Practice.
me a beautiful
Remember the
morning
lesson.
meditation.
Yeah, the lesson for today is practice being your future self. When
Yeah.
you get up out of the chair, did you have a couple of minutes, just a couple minutes starting of being your future self? Let that
Yeah.
practice being that tuna fork that is tracting that infinite potential that says, this potential is what I want to ring. If I can get my tuning fork to ring it, then I can draw in what I need to be it.
I love that you're that example of cleaning my tuning fork off
Yeah.
before I get, yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
When we
you.
get down to Einstein, all we are is a frequency modulator.
I know that, I'm a scientist.
Okay, then the only power we have then is our tuning.
Yeah. And it's such a
And
beautiful
all right, and all these programs are just uglied up our tuning. So we need to clean the
yeah.
tuning fork. And
Yeah.
when we do, then we can attract the frequency we want. We choose, we don't generate the frequency, we attract it. And then we
Yeah.
start resonating with it. Now that we start resonating with it, we can attract that which is tuned to that frequency and we can draw to us what we resonate with.
No, thank you. That's so clear and simple. And my first steps are cleaning my tuning fork. So I'm glad that I'm here. So thank you so much. Yay. Okay.
That is your superpower. Go do that.
Okay.
That was good. That was good. Thank you, Nancy. That
Thank
helped
you.
really nail down that
But you're
conversation.
helping me, because I just was constantly beating myself up about, I noticed that I made a habit of beating myself up. So
Breaking
thank
the
you.
habit of being yourself. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome. That was a good shot. Thank you, Nancy. I'll be sure to keep that in the recording. Okay. I'm going to end the recording, and then I've got one other thing I'd like to say.